Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick announcement. We know it's 10 o'clock and we are scheduled to begin at 10. I just want to thank you for being on time. We are mindful, however, that other colleagues who are scheduled to be here have not yet arrived and they've asked for a little bit more time. So I crave your indulgence for another maybe 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, whilst we await the arrival of colleagues who will participate in the event and others who would definitely want to be here. There's a bit of traffic, I gather, on the outside. So we will get on the way. within 15 minutes, but if we have them arrive before that time, we will proceed. So thank you again for being on time. We respect your time and we appreciate your punctuality. Good morning. Might I invite us all to take our seats at this time? And even as you've just taken your seat, it's an opportunity for you to take a breather, because I'm going to invite you to stand once again for the singing of the national anthem of Jamaica. Please be seated. Good morning. Recognizing the impact of multiple shocks and hazards that many vulnerable in Jamaica face underpins the need to continuously review and enhance the social protection system. The social protection system in Jamaica offers an important entry point for addressing poverty, chronic vulnerability, and risks, ensuring mechanisms are in place to flexibly respond to the varied needs to prevent long-term undesirable outcomes. Effective social protection is one of Jamaica's national outcomes under Vision 2030 Jamaica and the SDGs, empowering citizens to achieve their fullest potential and providing substantial coverage of the poor and vulnerable. Today's closing event of the SDG Joint Program represents a moment in time to reflect on the contributions of key stakeholders, to appreciate the broad support in advancing Jamaica's social protection development agenda, and to encourage us all to sustain the achievements realized within the past 27 months. This project is made possible through the collaborative work between the United Nations in Jamaica and the government of Jamaica, with the support of the international donor community. We recognize and welcome the presence of the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security, the Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Dennis Zulu, United Nations Resident Coordinator, Her Excellency Marianne Van Steen, Ambassador, Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Lisa Kerbiel, Head of Secretariat for the Joint SDG Fund, Olga Izaza, Representative for UNICEF, Isiwa Iyehen, Deputy Representative, United Nations Women Multi-Country Office Caribbean, Dana Sakati, Head of Satellite Office for Jamaica, the World Food Program, Caribbean Multi-Country Office, Audrey Dare Williams, Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security and the co-chair of the Project Oversight Steering Committee, representatives from government ministries, departments, and agencies, colleagues from the World Bank and other international development partners, including UN agencies, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. I said it earlier, but I think the response is going to be different this time around. Good morning to you. My name is Andre Miller, and I have the distinct privilege and honor of guiding us through this morning's closing event. Now, the hope is that we will be as precise and brief as possible because the real work happens when we're at our desks. And so this moment is for us to pause, to reflect, to thank, and appreciate. With more than 20 years of experience in international development, the private sector and academia, Mr. Dennis Zulu has served as director of the International Labour Organization, ILO's Decent Work Team in the Caribbean. In his own words, at this time, he now has the esteemed honor of coordinating the United Nations team in Jamaica as a resident coordinator. Please welcome the UNRC as he extends his official greeting and receives us all. Dennis.
I'm obviously not as tall as Andre is, but good morning. Now, Honorable Minister, please, I know I've got this whole list of salutations, so I'd wish to seek your indulgence to acknowledge the protocol as established by my colleague, but respectfully acknowledge yourself and the Minister and also our colleagues from the EU, Ambassador Van Steen, and colleagues from the UN. It's indeed a pleasure to be here this morning to witness what has been termed to be a closure, but I don't think it's a closure because I think the work begins today. And this, what we're going to do today really exemplifies or should actually see whether we actually have done much in terms of establishing sustainability of the initiatives that we've done. And it's a pleasure to welcome you this morning on behalf of the United Nations country team in Jamaica. And today we're here to mark the conclusion of a very successful project, joint program if I may say, which made significant contributions towards modernizing Jamaica's social protection system. Its success is one which all of you have played a role, and that's why you're here. And so I therefore invite you all to please give yourselves a round of applause. Let's start by giving this here. This joint program was a collaborative effort between the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, the United Nations, acting through UNICEF, UN Women, and the World Food Programme. And indeed, let's acknowledge the important role that made this happen. It is really the generosity of our development partners, the European Union, Canada, and indeed Germany. Our meeting today is not to celebrate that a program has ended, but to recognize its instrumental impact in advancing Jamaica's social protection landscape, making it more resilient, more inclusive, and more responsive to the needs of the most vulnerable Jamaicans. Over the past 27 months, this program has exemplified the power of partnerships and the collective action in pursuit of the Sustainable Development Goals. Over the past 27 months, we have injected an investment of approximately $1,100,000 United States dollars, which has allowed us to advance the commitments of the United Nations Cooperation Framework with Jamaica and allowed us to again contribute to Jamaicans' Vision 2030 to become the place of choice, raise families, and do business for all Jamaicans. This joint program has been able to do this through achievements across 4 key outputs. The first output is enhancement of payment processes within Jamaica's social protection system, ensuring efficiency, effectiveness, and safety with a focus on accessibility. The second has been strengthening institutional capacity for evidence-based emergency expansion of social protection programs, enabling faster responses to acute social, economic, and environmental impacts. Thirdly, increased coverage and coordination through the integration of information systems within the social protection system. And fourth and lastly, the advancement of gender equality by conducting a gender gaps analysis on policy and legislative frameworks aimed at closing existing gaps and improving responsiveness. This was done under the guidance of dedicated oversight steering committee. And Minister Charles, please permit me to recognize the co-chair, Audrey Dear-Williams, Chief Technical Director, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, for our commitment and active engagement. Thank you. The tangible progress we have witnessed in disaster risk management and social protection was possible due to a number of capacity building initiatives, efforts in digitization, modernizing operating procedures, the implementation of gender sensitive and responsive processes, among other strategies, all with the goal of reducing risk exposure for the most vulnerable segments of the society. Additionally, this program has been instrumental in catalyzing additional support, including the Government of Canada, to strengthen systems and networks that enable and empower the support with disabilities. This underscores our commitment to leaving no one behind and ensuring that all members of society have access to essential services, especially during a crisis. Looking ahead as we transition from the operational phase to the joint program, I'm pleased with the strategies that will allow for its sustainability, as I started off by saying. I'm confident that Jamaica's public servants are committed and prepared to put into practice the growth in their capacity. And Minister, being the head of the Ministry of Labour, will look forward to further engagement and seeing how we can support in this regard. On the part of the UN, we have also committed to convening a Jamaica Social Protection Coordination Group within our International Development Partners Caucus, convened by the UN in Jamaica. This group will continue to support the government of Jamaica in strengthening its social protection system, providing technical assistance and enhancing coordination among key stakeholders. In closing, I'd like to express our sincere gratitude to all our development partners, the EU, as I said earlier on, and the German government, and of course the implementing partners, the government of Jamaica, and most importantly, the beneficiary of the program. Your unwavering commitment and dedication have been a driving force behind our collective success. As we embark on the next phase of our journey, let's affirm our commitment to continue to build resilient systems capable of withstanding impending shocks, inclusive systems that work for all, and responsive systems that can address the unique needs of even the most vulnerable. We've made this giant step, and together, if we persist, we can take 10 steps more. Thank you so much, and welcome again.
Thank you very much, RC. Our next speaker is no stranger to the Americas, having completed a highly successful 4-year term as EU ambassador to Ecuador and boasting over 25 years in diplomacy and international development with the European Union. Representing the voice of the community of donors, please welcome Her Excellency Marianne Van Steen.
Good morning, lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this event. Protocol has been established, but let me please acknowledge the Honorable Colonel Charles, Minister of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, and of course also the Minister of State, Norman Dunn, all the UN colleagues here, each and every one of you. A pleasure to see you all interested in this topic. I have to say I see more women than men. Not going to comment that. But did you know that the provision of social protection for vulnerable populations, did you know that that is actually a human right? It is, I mean, I was told, I didn't check it myself. It is Article 22 of the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I'm actually going to read it to you because I thought it was quite interesting. So it says, it's always long sentences because they've been negotiated. But it says that everyone, as a member of society, has the right to social security and is entitled to the realization through national effort and international cooperation and in accordance with the organization and resources of each state of the economic, social, and cultural rights indispensable for his dignity and the free development of his personality. I was quite impressed when I read that. Within the European Union, I think I can say that social security, or call it social protection, is quite well embedded in, I think, all of our member states. And outside the European Union, we are trying to contribute where we can for countries to comply with this Article 22. I think from the European Union point of view, not only the EU, but also member states, I think we can safely say that we are the biggest donors in terms of ODA that goes to social protection. I'm quite proud about that because it's extremely important. So yeah, that's a bit of an introduction to say that during COVID and those difficult days, that sometimes it is quite striking that we seem to have forgotten, but they happened, and when we start thinking back, we say like, wow, do you remember? Those were difficult times. And at that point in time, the European Union decided to join this joint Sustainable Development Goal Fund, together with other international financial institutions, and of course with the United Nations. And under that umbrella, under that fund, many support programs in many countries have seen the light, and I was actually really happy to find out that one of those programs was here, was decided to be implemented here in Jamaica. That was in 2022. You may remember that that was in the middle of COVID, where many countries, many people were really suffering, and in terms of providing social protection and social security, that was quite overwhelming for many governments. So it was decided that a support program was going to be set up here in Jamaica to support the system, and in the hope that that could empower the most vulnerable people in Jamaica, guaranteeing their rights and prevent discrimination, all in view of a more inclusive, equitable, and prosperous society, actually to implement Article 22 of the Declaration. So that was good news, and the better news was that we could rely on the excellent expertise and work of the United Nations agencies, because without the expertise on the ground, we can sign a check and put money in a fund, but nothing's going to happen. So we're very grateful to have seen that UNICEF, the World Food Programme, and UN Women, am I correct? Okay, has really worked together to do a number of things which I'm not going to mention here, because I think the resident coordinator already made a list, and I'm sure this is going to come back mentioned here by the people who really got involved. But yes, thank you to the UN, like always. Very important that we can continue to work together. However, you cannot just have the UN either. You need a counterpart. So even if multilateral partnership and expertise and hard work is really important, at the heart of this transformative program was your ministry, Minister. And we were very grateful for the leadership that has been given to it by the government of Jamaica. So at this point in time, I join you at the conclusion of this 27 months program. And as I'm not going to mention all the results or achievements, let me just say that what is particularly encouraging for us when we see these programs being implemented is the progress that was made in terms of improving efficiency, effectiveness, and coordination between the different agencies. Very often when we implement, or we don't implement, but when we see programs that are being implemented for us, the focus is on coordination, because I think you'll all agree that within the context of a multiplicity of needs, there is no room, there are no funds for duplication. So that is one of the highlights I wanted to stress, and I'm going to conclude now, and I'm speaking on behalf of the European Union. I can say that I'm very proud and very pleased. I'm proud that we could contribute financially, and I'm very pleased to see the results, and we very much hope that the actions of this program will have a lasting impact. As you said, it shouldn't be the end, it should be the beginning. Thank you so much to each and every one of you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your gracious words. Even as the Ambassador mentioned implementation, might you permit me to pause to recognize members of the Oversight Steering Committee who are present here today. Can I ask you to stand and be recognized as we applaud all of their efforts in steering this project over the last 27 months. We may not have all. Thank you so much. Of course, whilst I'm standing here, I should also say I'm a part of that committee. So I'm standing in that stead also. I invite you to turn your attention to the screen behind me while we show a video presentation of the work that underpins this tremendous effort.
Our ultimate goal is to ensure that the UN country teams align more flexibly to specific SDG needs and priorities with results that leave no one behind.
The new fund created by the UN Secretary General with the UN Development System reform to work as one by introducing innovative approaches towards the Sustainable Development Goals.
There's a much greater commitment to joint programs, and the SDG Pool Fund has allowed us the possibility of working together differently to maximize our impact as a collective UN to transform the social protection system.
The first joint program on developing a system of community-based social services, targeting the people at risk of being behind.
Focus on these groups which are being excluded, strengthening the coordination with civil society, with advocacy group of Afro-descendant people, indigenous people, women's groups, children's and young people, but also migrants and refugees.
The world cannot achieve the SDGs without a fundamental shift in the international financial system that enables us to address urgent global threats and restore trust in international cooperation.
Helping the donor to contribute to a joint pot, and we'll allocate resources based on impact we want to have on the people's lives.
A mechanism for countries to strengthen their development financing policies, which can enhance countries' ability to build back better.
It gives a sense of direction to have that vision for the world we want.
Feel free to clap. Wearing multiple hats at any one time, with a natural inclination to find the most infectious laugh to make any tense meeting calm, is an effortless skill possessed by this next speaker. And she'll laugh after me now, you know. Serving as co-chair of the Joint Program Oversight Steering Committee, Audrey Dear-Williams substantively serves as Jamaica's Chief Technical Director for the Social Security Portfolio within the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. She's also a grandparent who does not trade time with her grandchildren for anything. Please make her welcome as she provides an overview of this project.
Thank you for that, Mr. Moderator, and for taking my secrets out public. Yes. So again, please allow me to acknowledge our moderator, Mr. Andre Miller, Social Policy Specialist with UNICEF, our ministers, Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Mr. Dennis Zulu, United Nations Resident Coordinator, Her Excellency Marianne Van Steen, Ambassador, Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Ms. Lisa Kerbel, Head of Secretariat, Joint SDG Fund, Olga Izaza, representative of UNICEF, Ishua Ayaen, I practiced it all night, Ishua, Deputy Representative UN Women Multi-Country Office, Caribbean. And I must say it's very interesting because for 27 months we've been talking to Issue and she has never seen us in person. Dana Sacchetti, Head of Satellite Office, Jamaica, World Food Program, Caribbean Multi-Country Office. Representatives of government ministries, departments and agencies, other persons from the World Bank and other international development partners, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good morning. And I'm not going to share my laugh just yet. The Sustainable Development Goal Joint Program was launched in January 2022 with the objective of enhancing Jamaica's social protection system, enabling it to be more shock responsive and gender responsive. The experience of the COVID-19 pandemic would have brought this need into sharper focus. With this lofty goal and funding of US $1.1 million, both local participants, the PIOJ and the MLSS, and international partners, UNICEF, World Food Program, and UN Women, established the following 4 main key outputs. The enhancement of payment processes within Jamaica's social protection system, making them more efficient, effective, inclusive, and safe. The strengthening of institutional capacity for evidence-based emergency expansion of social security programs. Specifically, the aim was to be able to quickly identify and more effectively deliver services to persons facing socio-economic and environmental impacts as a result of natural or man-made disasters. Thirdly, supporting the increased population coverage and improved coordination by improving integration of information systems used within various MDAs offering social protection programs, and to strengthen the service delivery to both men and women by conducting a gender gap analysis on policy and the legislative framework towards closing existing gaps and improving responsiveness. While I will allow the subject leads to speak to the specific achievements in their area, I will report that some major achievements of the project are 150 government officials and service providers benefited from capacity building sessions. We were able, through the project, to respond to the national development priorities in disaster management, and we further advanced the efforts to automate some of our targeting mechanisms and tools by increasing the levels of digitization. As I said before, the achievements will be shared in greater details by the participating UN agency later in this program. Under the joint project, additional financing was also secured to support some parallel work. This includes work to support the digitization and building out of a management information system for the JCPD, Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, and the development of a concept note to support the GOJ in undertaking future research to identify persons who may need additional support owing to their specific vulnerabilities, level of poverty, climate risk, or other socioeconomic characteristics. It has certainly been my honor to be the co-chair of the project committee, which had the responsibility to oversee this very important body of work. And I'm sure we can all agree that it will greatly enhance social protection delivery in our country. We owe a debt of gratitude to the United Nations and all 13 members of the committee. I don't think everyone is present today, but we recognize them nonetheless. Let me use this opportunity to publicly thank my co-chair, Mr. Andre Miller from UNICEF, very able, members of the PIOJ, Mrs. Colette Robinson, Ms. Dolores Wade, and Ms. Lorna Sampson, Other colleagues from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, my colleague, CTD, Diane Jennings, Ms. Suzette Morris, Mrs. Marks Willis, and Mrs. Maraj, and of course, Dr. Christine Hendricks. We acknowledge as well our other partners from the UN agencies, Dana, who surprised me with some patois this morning, Ishua from UN Women. Together, we can be proud of what we have achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention.
Did you see the laugh, or did you see the smile and hear the laugh? So indeed, indeed. Dana, I'm looking forward to that line of patois a little later. UNICEF, the World Food Programme, and UN Women, like many other UN agencies, are powerhouses in the development arena, contributing to sustainable change and fostering long-term partnerships. Over the past 27 months, these three agencies have provided technical and financial support to the government of Jamaica, as guided by the technical teams within the Ministry of Labor and Social Security and the Planning Institute of Jamaica. Today, each agency will provide us with brief highlights on the key results, showing how together they are helping to modernize the social protection system in Jamaica, making it shock and gender responsive. In this order, we will have the Deputy Representative of the UN Women's Multi-Country Office, Ms. Isua Iyahen, the Head of Jamaica's Satellite Office for the World Food Programme, Dana Sakati, and UNICEF's Country Representative, Olga Isasa. I should note that Isua is a part of the online community, and we have several persons online, and as such, she will be beaming from her office, not internal to Jamaica. So please welcome at this time, Isua Iyahen.
Thank you very much, Andre. Are you hearing me? Yes? Okay, thank you very much. All protocols having been observed, I still would like to recognize the Honorable Cornell Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security, the Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Mr. Dennis Zulu, UN Resident Coordinator, Her Excellency Marianne Van Steen, Ambassador Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica. And thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to share with you today the collective impact of the UN system and how we have served to contribute jointly through this joint program to contribute to advancing the social protection system in Jamaica. UN Women, as a participating UN organization in this joint program, was privileged to broaden the knowledge base on gender and the social protection system. And you will be seeing a PowerPoint presentation that I will deliver very soon, just summarizing very quickly. I know I don't have a lot of time to show you where the highlights of this support that we have provided. The agency's analysis confirmed that while Jamaica has made significant progress, the areas in which improvements are most needed from a gender perspective in terms of the social protection system are in supporting women who are working in informal employment and those who are unemployed. Now I'll be very happy to share with you the highlights of another piece of analytical work that we did, which encompasses an assessment from a gender perspective of the PATH program. So once the presentation is on the screen, I'll proceed. Thank you very much. Okay, so as I shared, these are just highlights. This does not encompass everything that UN Women did. in terms of contribution to the program, but we found that we want to capitalize on this captive audience to share with you the highlights. Next slide, please. So the GABA, or Gender Aware Beneficiary Assessment, aimed to assess the responsiveness of the program to the different needs of women and men and other vulnerable groups. Next slide, please. And you're aware of the PATH program. I won't share all of this with you, but basically it is a program aimed at ensuring that the needs of the most vulnerable, particularly those who are experiencing particular challenges, are able to receive conditional cash transfers. It was established in 2021. And I would just highlight point 4 on the screen. Children below the age of 6 years and children of school age 6 to 17 years, pregnant and lactating women, the elderly, and persons with disabilities comprise the majority of the beneficiaries. And so I must use this opportunity to congratulate the government of Jamaica with really, developing this program that has served to really contribute to reducing poverty in Jamaica. Children account for more than 65% of total beneficiaries, and the majority, overwhelming majority of caregivers are women. Therefore, we cannot separate child vulnerability from gender. And we also cannot, we have to take an intersectional approach, and we know that there are intersectionalities with disability, with location, and so on. Next slide, please. So there was a mix of qualitative and quantitative. There were focus groups done, and we wanted to assess the voices of the beneficiaries and other stakeholders in really giving us insight into this program. So here are some key findings. Next slide, please. So most of the beneficiaries interviewed agreed that the program has been important, absolutely important, in terms of providing income security to their households. But the most contribution noted was in the area of food security. And again, this is quite impactful. And I think in this forum, we have to recognize the contribution that Jamaica has made to ensuring food security for the population. And the PATH has been indispensable in that regard. And this is reconfirmed through this research. The positive impact that the PATH has had on school attendance and healthcare services is also noted. Next slide, please. So most participants believe that both boys and girls should receive the same amount. This was an assessment done from a gender perspective. And this is important to highlight because in the past, there were differences in the amount based on sex, and that is no longer the case. Elderly persons receive larger cash amounts than adults, and there is no difference in the amount that persons with disabilities received compared to able adults. So that is an area for more concern because we know the increased vulnerabilities that persons with disabilities experience. There also is a need for more provisions for cash disbursement at collection points for the elderly and persons with disabilities. Next slide, please. In terms of compliance with the program, it is a conditional cash transfer program, so the beneficiaries are required to meet certain conditions, as the name implies, in order to stay on the program. What I would like to highlight is that while there's relatively high compliance with these conditions, the household members, beneficiaries, did confirm that they are experiencing difficulties with complying with the program requirements. And the main challenge was the money they have to spend, the additional money they have to spend on lunch and transportation to healthcare services, to taking their children to school, which are requirements for staying on the program. Now, when you take into account that the majority of beneficiaries are children of school age and the majority of caregivers are women, then this is a finding from a gender perspective that we have to take into account. That while they are complying, there is this challenge in terms of the additional expenditure that they have to make in order to stay on the program. Next slide, please. So participants also believe that you have to be indigent or extremely poor to be on the path, which is not necessarily the case. So this is a finding for the managers of the program to consider. And also the beneficiaries express challenges with accessing the benefits, including standing in long lines, and also challenges with being suspended without being perhaps more room. There needs to be more room for visiting the household prior to suspension to really find out why that individual or that family did not comply with the conditions. I want to underscore again that most beneficiaries do comply. So this is basically feedback from the beneficiaries, the majority of whom are women, that perhaps there is room for more investigation for those who are suspended. So the children, feedback in terms of the children's experiences, they experience challenges with school lunches. There's a need perhaps to improve the quality of school lunches, and also with feelings of discrimination and bullying in that regard. So that's something to look at as well. Next slide, please. And we're coming swiftly to the end. So 73% of the male representatives agreed that the past grants were too small, and about 70% of women, so almost the same, while they appreciate, of course, the assistance. And an equal share of male and female representatives agreed that the frequency of the benefits, there was room for more frequency in terms of providing the benefits, and that in terms of the female representatives agreed, about a majority, about 56%, that there is need to improve the, that they agreed, that the path has helped to improve their household quality of life. They will not be able to survive without this program, basically, compared to 71% of male family representatives. So the men at a level of 71% expressed their appreciation in terms of improvement of their household quality. And while it is a majority, but a much lower percentage in terms of women who have these increased care responsibilities. So that's also something to consider. What is important as well is to note the impact of this program from an income security perspective and the protection that provides from intimate partner violence. 7.5% of the family representatives stated that being on the path had allowed them to leave an abusive relationship. While the path was not created to address intimate partner violence, this is important. And I again want to underscore the necessity of income security interventions in preventing and responding to intimate partner violence. And the path is making a contribution in that regard. Next slide, please. So in terms of gender responsiveness, the path is there's a recommendation to adopt more gender-aware planning. For example, separate arrangements for vulnerable groups, including pregnant women, lactating women in those lines, elderly people, perhaps should have separate lines to access cash transfers. Participants suggested that the path should consider the needs of applicants rather than their living conditions. And here is a quote from one of them. Sometimes you would have received a gift or had a stove or fridge handed down to you by a family member or friend, but that does not mean that you're not in need. That should not be the only criteria for getting on the program. Next slide, please. So I mentioned a quick win could be something like the lines, right? Separate lines or collection days for persons with disabilities, pregnant women, and the elderly. There is a need for integrating in the training of the officers of the path and the MLSS on communicating to persons with disabilities, and of course their intersectionalities with gender in that regard. And also the recommendation is that there's a need to use more social media to target key populations and so on. Next slide, please. And this is where you will see recommendations from a gender perspective. And I will end here that the path can become more gender responsive in implementing mechanisms that support women in childcare. I would remind you of the finding in terms of the conditionalities and the increased expenditures that they would have to make to meet the conditions. That's an example of the fact that beneficiaries of the program who are responsible for caring for the children, who comprise the majority of beneficiaries, do need that support in order to be able to balance their care needs with meeting the conditions of the program and staying on the program and eventually leaving the program, hopefully. So the GABA revealed that overall the PATH program remains gender neutral. So that is something that UN Women stands ready as part of the UN family to continue working with the government on. And it is important for the PATH and social protection programs to recognize that intersectionality, as I mentioned, between gender and disability, between gender and location, gender and age, and understanding that, all these varying degrees of vulnerability and differences of women and men, and that these differences must be recognized. We all want to achieve equality and gender equality, but we are not all the same. And so we have to apply an equity lens in terms of our policy and service delivery framework to close those inequality and gender inequality gaps. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to share these highlights. And again, UN Women stands ready to continue collaborating with the rest of the UN system in jointly supporting the development goals of Jamaica. Thank you very much.
I will not be delivering my remarks in patois this morning, but maybe on a future occasion. Protocol having been established, I would still like to recognize the presence of Honorable Pernell Charles, Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Madam Ambassador, members of the UN community, friends and colleagues, and my colleagues within the government of Jamaica. Good morning. Very much a pleasure to be here with you today. Within the World Food Program, we stand united in our commitment to addressing the pressing challenges faced by vulnerable populations worldwide. Today, I have the privilege to share with you the achievements of our joint program that aim to positively impact the lives of the most vulnerable in Jamaica. As we take note of the excellent collaboration with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security and the Planning Institute of Jamaica and our UN partners under this program, we must first recall why we undertake this important work. Here in Jamaica, and in countries across the world, social protection systems serve as a lifeline for the most vulnerable individuals and families. They provide a safety net during times of crisis, ensuring that no one is left behind. However, in many small island developing state contexts, existing systems have yet to reach their full potential and are at times ill-equipped to handle the onslaught of shocks. These challenges are never more apparent than in times of crisis, be they a pandemic, as we saw during COVID-19, a hurricane, an earthquake, or even a major rain event, such as those that have affected Jamaica in recent years. Under this joint program, and across our organization's broader work in social protection in the Caribbean, WFP's contribution to the government of Jamaica focuses on tailored, strategic interventions that support the modernization of the social protection system, while enabling it to be more responsive to shocks. Through this JP, WFP and the MLSS engaged in a range of efforts to enhance and strengthen capacities with focus on institutional arrangements, targeting mechanisms, data and information systems, and delivery mechanisms. Key areas of work completed under the project included efforts to modernize and digitize payments for social assistance. We worked very closely with a wide range of actors spanning government, financial institutions, payment providers, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, advocacy groups, and most importantly, beneficiaries themselves, through a broad research initiative that surveyed the ecosystem for digital payments on the demand side for beneficiaries and on the supply side for mobile providers, payment providers, banks, and retailers. This work culminated in supporting the government with a clear sense and a direction of travel that can guide future innovation in this critical area of service delivery. As we conducted this important research, we paid close attention to the unique gender dynamics present in Jamaica and factored in the wider efforts around digital financial inclusion, which are so relevant to this work in social protection. From WFP, and I speak for UNICEF as well, we particularly enjoyed this component within the joint program, as we were able to interact directly with a number of beneficiaries across multiple parishes. And I think nothing sharpens the work of those that are engaged in social protection quite like getting out of the office and meeting people face to face on their terms and in their environment. We noted that many of those that we met in such interactions were greatly appreciative of the chance to share their experiences, often remarking, "It's nice to be listened to." I think this is a key reminder to all of us of the importance of putting the user at the center of our work in social protection. WFP further provided technical assistance on digitalization of key processes related to data collection and visualization, all of which can empower decision makers with tools to improve service delivery and access to data. By moving from paper-based to digital tools and processes, the ministry can speed its responsiveness to evolving and emerging needs among the most vulnerable, cognizant that assistance is most meaningful if it's provided shortly after a hazard or shock has rendered its impact. WFP further sought to build capacities among social protection and disaster risk management professionals through knowledge exchange and training. We had a very fruitful training session on shock responsive social protection with staff from both the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management and the MLSS, offering a space for learning on best practices in program design, targeting, service delivery, and institutional arrangements, while offering knowledge exchange between both disciplines. We rounded out our intervention by concluding with the first stages of a program to test new payment modalities, chiefly focused on digital payments for social assistance programs, by engaging with a range of beneficiaries across 3 parishes, utilizing digital tools for registration, and providing the ministry with a list of most vulnerable persons that could be targeted for a follow-on pilot initiative, one that we look forward to. As we conclude our program, we want to recognize the excellent partnership that we enjoyed with the Resident Coordinator's Office, UN Women, and UNICEF, which capably served as lead UN agency on the project. I particularly want to recognize the work of Andre Miller, who shepherded the project through his expertise in social protection and his deft hand in diplomacy. I further want to recognize the critical support provided by the SDG Joint Program and the donors and government partners to the project, chiefly among them the European Union, the governments of Canada, and Germany. We appreciate the fund and its donors' commitment to the work that WFP is doing to support SIDS such as Jamaica to change lives while promoting resilience across the Caribbean. Finally, WFP wants to thank and recognize our strong and continued collaboration with the government of Jamaica, in particular with the MLSS and PIOJ. We fully recognize the vast amount of work that both MLSS and PIOJ take on in designing and implementing programs that make a difference in the lives of vulnerable people across Jamaica. While the joint program has concluded, WFP reaffirms its commitment to support the government of Jamaica to further the modernization agenda through continued technical assistance and support. And given its catalytic nature, the joint program offered WFP and partner agencies with an excellent foundation on which to ground future opportunities to further strengthen systems for social protection in Jamaica. Thank you.
Good morning. The protocol has been established, so but let me acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Parnell Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security, the Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Her Excellency Marianne Van Steen, Ambassador, Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica, Dennis Zulu, our United Nations Resident Coordinator, all the colleagues from the other UN agencies, the members of the Oversight Steering Committee, other members for the ministries, departments, and agencies, the international development partners, ladies and gentlemen, my marvelous team from UNICEF. Good morning again. Let me start by celebrating the Joint Sustainable Development Goal Fund. This is an innovative instrument to incentivize the transformative policy shift and stimulate the strategic investment required to meet the SDGs. The collaboration among partners like the European Union, the government of Jamaica, and the United Nations have made it possible to reach these milestones today. Jamaica has made an important step toward ensuring that more people and families are cautioned against the potentially harsh consequences of social and economic shocks, especially during emergencies, and we trust that this process will eventually assist in breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty. UNICEF is pleased to be part of these significant efforts, providing technical and financial support to modernize Jamaica's social protection system. The collaborative effort among the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, WFP, UN Women, and UNICEF have allowed all of us to advance the mandate to leave no one behind. Talking with children and people with disabilities through the project, we confirm the relevance of working in 4 different spheres well informed by data and evidence. The first one, the capacity and ability to provide well-needed funds to people affected by emergency. In other words, the importance of reviewing the criteria to establish and update the level of financial assistance people receive to overcome shocks. Second, the way the government delivers benefits, considering the barriers the same system creates and the possibilities technology offers to overcome them. Third, the importance of having inclusive and timely mechanisms to accelerate the speed at which people with disabilities get help in emergencies. And finally, the importance of having broader coverage and better quality of government communication with communities affected by disasters. UNICEF is particularly encouraged by the progress made in these different areas with the Jamaican Council for Persons with Disabilities and the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. The program has helped to improve the service quality for families with children and people with disabilities through an enhanced management information system that supports registration and certification. The program has also advanced the integrated beneficiary registry and the social registry, which ensure database interoperability across social programs. This initiative minimizes fragmentation, reduce inclusion and exclusion errors, and strengthen the national strategy for disaster risk reduction. Despite the progress, our collaborative work with the Ministry and the PIOJ keep in focus that Jamaica spent significantly less on social protection programs compared to the overall Latin American and Caribbean average. This means that there is a room for improvement in Jamaican expenditure on services related to social care, social insurance, and social protection. Of equal concerns remain the children who are living in extreme poverty and who are not benefiting from any form of social protection coverage in Jamaica. According to the last Jamaica survey of living conditions in 2019, these represent 52.5% of children who are not benefiting from any form of social protection services. The urgency of now requires us to continue to collaborate and act. We want all children and their families to have access to quality services and resources they need. We want to protect the right of all and the right of every child, especially those living in poverty. The joint program to modernize the social protection system demonstrated a shared resolve to progressively achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and Jamaica's Vision 2030 Development Plan. As we concentrate our efforts on sustaining this work, the support to the government will continue. Let me reiterate UNICEF appreciation to the World Food Programme, UN Women, the government of Jamaica, and the donor community for this timely investment in the most vulnerable children of Jamaica. Thank you so much.
The Joint SDG Fund is committed to strengthening resilience and ending the vulnerabilities of small island developing states. The multiplicity of socioeconomic and environmental vulnerabilities, in addition to the shocks caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, have been detrimental to the island nations, but SIDS are resilient. They are building forward better by developing innovative financing solutions to strengthen the protection of vulnerable groups and creating greener and bluer economies. Sustainable growth will require economic diversification and greater participation from a young, skillful workforce. And to lessen the effects of disasters, access to modern, innovative technologies led by digitization are critical. For economic growth and food production, healthy oceans are vital for the well-being of coastal communities by improving livelihood sectors of fisheries and ecotourism. To secure these smart investments, mobilizing partnerships with the private sector, civil society, and governments are fundamental to empowering small island developing states to succeed in reaching the Sustainable Development Goals. The Joint.
Thank you very much. I was really looking forward to Dana saying big up Jamaica, but we understand. Colleagues, as we press along, the responsibility to lead a flagship development fund at the UN, which has capitalized US $275 million to accelerate SDG achievement in the global south, is an extraordinary opportunity. Small and developing states face a shared set of geographical, environmental, economic, and social challenges, frequently exposed to natural hazards and disasters. The road to transformation for developing states like Jamaica is facilitated through the hard-working team at the Joint SDG Fund Secretariat, headed by Ms. Lisa Kerbiel. Let's welcome her as she extends greetings. We turn to the screen as we listen to Lisa.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm so regretful that I'm not with you in person. Dear Honorable Mr. Purnell Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security, dear Audrey Dear Williams, Chief Technical Director, Ministry of Labor and Social Security, all protocols observed, my dear colleague, Resident Coordinator Dennis Zulu, excellencies across our beloved donor community, esteemed colleagues and partners, good morning. It is such a pleasure to join you today, sadly via internet, to mark the culmination of this joint program. I've been thrilled to be listening to the significant milestones that you've achieved together in strengthening institutional capacity and promoting equitable access to social protection, especially to women in Jamaica. First of all, I'd like to sincerely congratulate the government of Jamaica, especially the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, for this partnership through this joint program. And please be assured that we stand ready to continue our support in any way we can to sustain this critical work. We also, and I am thrilled to commend the UN country team for their role in bringing together the agencies to deliver this joint support and facilitate the impact of this program. I believe the interventions of UN Women, WFP, and UNICEF that immediately preceded me exemplify the precise intent of the member states of the General Assembly who created this fund 4 years ago. Colleagues, the Joint SDG Fund is never meant to support business as usual, and it's not meant for a disjointed and disconnected UN country team. It's meant to push the limits of how we can really reach those that are really at risk of being left behind by working together. And I think women in the informal sector, young people and children are primary examples of this, and really want to acknowledge how this is a new way of doing business, and I think it's the only way for the kinds of impact that we need. We welcome the contributions made to strengthen Jamaica's social protection system. It's more inclusive, it's more comprehensive, and it's impacting lives through the improvement of this social assistance delivery. And I'd like to focus in on data management because your program has brought together all different systems that enable reaching out to the people who need the assistance, and ensure that they improved access and, of course, the quality of the programs that they eventually are beneficiaries of. The research, the funding, digitalization, all of these different pieces are at the forefront of how you're transforming this social protection system to reduce inequalities, to make sure no one is left behind. It's critically exciting to look at the integrated management information system and how, as we move together into this more and more digitized world, data interoperability that allows for more efficient, effective, and safe payment modalities. We know that if someone doesn't get that payment, we have someone that's at risk of not having dinner tonight, and we know how quickly that impacts the entire family. I'm thrilled to repeat that this system has allowed the improvements of cash transfers to 17,842 vulnerable people previously excluded from social assistance. And of course, this financial inclusion and income support is converging. And that's very exciting as well. We're thrilled with the efforts of the Joint Program Oversight Committee that established a standing social protection coordination group. This is the relevant UN agencies, funds, and programs, of course, esteemed government representatives, and other critical partners that make up this group, which is supporting government priorities to strengthen social protection systems, and of course, ideally providing the high-quality technical assistance to help improve efficiency, effectiveness, and coordination. We also, as the video began to just show, we want to reiterate our commitment to supporting small island developing states. Our fund, luckily, and we hope we can increase, is already at $5 million, specifically in Jamaica alone, but certainly wider funding across the countries that are also supported by the multi-country office that Dennis leads in Jamaica, all within the last 3 years. And our goal, of course, is to build on this success, past joint programs, and really now help Jamaica go into its next joint program with the joint SDG fund support for digital transformation. And I would like to acknowledge the European Union, who is the lead donor on our digital transformation window. And we're really thrilled that this grant of $3 million over 3 years can really have a focus not only on digitalization, but on transforming education in Jamaica. It's really to enhance the efficiency and inclusivity. It's targeting almost 500,000 students in Jamaica, and by ensuring equal access to quality education, the program is aiming to empower, of course, all Jamaicans to reach their highest and fullest potential. It will focus on improving learning outcomes, on data management, and decision-making processes within the education sector. And it will also integrate food systems and social protection so that we have a holistic view of not only the students, but also the educational system that supports them. We are thrilled to have Jamaica as part of this cohort that is one of the first, and we know it will be showcased already at the Summit of the Future, just a few months away here in New York, where the Global Digital Compact will, of course, be demanding more and more focus from all of us as we go forward. So again, I'd like to warmly thank all of you for this generous invitation, to congratulate all of you on your continued advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals in Jamaica, and I really look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Of course, having heard all of what you have heard, it's appropriate for us now to hear from someone who has a passion for the community and service in the community and young people. This individual currently serves as Jamaica's 22nd Minister of Labor and Social Security. He understands the matter quite well, and I suspect in his own home he would have heard of the discourse over the years. Please help me welcome at this time the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security.
Permit me to firstly acknowledge Mr. Miller. I think he's doing a good job. Right? So if anything happens, you have an option. Of course, I'm always pleased to have with me my excellent Minister of State, Dr. the Honorable Norman Dunn. I, of course, am glad that I'm here this morning with all of the representatives from the UN and the EU. I must tell you, I'm one of the first persons that Her Excellency, our EU ambassador, met with when she came to Jamaica. So I take a lot of pride in saying that I've been one of the persons that gave her a warm welcome. And I must say, you're looking lovely in your Jamaican gold there. Of course, I want to acknowledge the raft of persons who are here as stakeholders. Definitely important. Dennis, our resident coordinator, we're going to be working together on a lot of issues. Just talking back and forth a while ago, Mr. Dana Seketi, who we have met and we're to meet again. We're to have some further discussions around these issues. Of course, the importance of the video that we saw showing us that together we can actually make it is reflected here. I'm just sitting down watching everyone presenting. Just the dynamic raft of us that are in this room thinking about 1945 when the United Nations was being started. And in my estimation, this is what they then would have wanted and projected and anticipated for the UN, which was at that time trying to simply stop the world from blowing up itself. But of course, developed into much more around corporations, beyond stopping war to just coordination around peace and security and economic issues. And so it's so important to see that with me is, of course, my wonderful CTD, Audrey Dare Williams, who I learned now why I don't see her at some meetings. I'm joking. That's a joke. Everybody was like, she's gonna get it. No, that's a joke. And of course, permit me to also acknowledge CTD Jennings, who is here as well, and other members from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, including Ms. Suzette Morris and Ms. Shepherd, and several of us who are here. And we are here joined by our good friends. I don't want to destroy her name, Ishua Ayahen. And the work that she represented to us a while ago is so critical, because if you watch the news, I'm hoping that you're aware that we're doing a review of the program that she speaks of. And so the information and all of the outcomes are going to be so critical in terms of assisting us to define what the new modality will be. Not to mention our UNICEF representative, Olga Iseza, and of course I have to acknowledge Head of Secretariat for the Joint SDG Fund, Lisa Kerbiel, and all of the other friends who are here. If I've left out your name, it's not a matter of you not being distinguished. We are all distinguished in this room because we have a shared goal. We have a shared goal. And I heard you speaking about the disabled community. The head of my JCPD is here as well, Dr. Hendricks. So we have so much that we should be doing, are doing, will be doing. And I must tell you, I've had the blessing of serving in several ministries. And there's one constant, the EU support. Can I tell you? Maybe it's the ministries that I'm in. Because, serving in climate change and an environment, and I must tell you, there's been a consistent support from the EU, and consistently a very significant major donor support to issues that matter. Issues that matter. So let me start off by just simply saying thank you to all of the stakeholders. I am encouraged. I'm encouraged whenever I see us coming together around the issues that are going to really impact those in our country who I believe deserve our focus the most. And if anything, modernizing the social protection system in Jamaica is going to have an impact on at-risk youth that I was speaking about yesterday with USAID. It will have an impact on our disabled community. It will have an impact on our senior citizens. It will have an impact on those families that are struggling, some who don't want you to know they're struggling, but they are struggling. And it's going to give us an opportunity to really create the environment where we can truly not just talk about, but achieve an inclusive and equitable society. And I must tell you, the government has made significant strides towards it in terms of our macroeconomic stability and in terms of the efforts in lowest unemployment, stability in terms of our economy, being recognized internationally as one of the countries that have gone through a pandemic and exited on the better side. And sometimes we take it for granted, but we should not. Jamaica has made some significant strides in the last decade. And on top of that, if we are going to continue to go further, we have to then start to have this hyper-focus, not just a side issue, but a hyper-focus on the social protection systems, lifting up, giving support to those who, because of their circumstances, have not had an opportunity to be all they can be. And the real worth of our system will be when, despite the circumstances, persons are able to be all they can be. The goal of the Sustainable Development Goals Joint Program was clear. You heard our Chief Technical Director say it. We have been moving towards having an adaptive, a responsive, and an inclusive system. And since the launch 2 years ago, the Jamaica government has been committed to the SDGs. And we've been doing so with tangible and unwavering underpinning by a steadfast dedication to building a better future for all of our people. This joint program was therefore geared towards building on the existing investment in a national protection, social protection system and programs, particularly those under the purview of my ministry, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Through the invaluable support of our partners, including UNICEF, including the World Food Programme, UN Women, and the diligent efforts of our partners in government, the ministry has embarked on a transformative path to modernizing our social protection system. And you're going to hear a lot, I would say, in the next year. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security has been, I think in the last 6 months, we have been identifying and moving at a pace that I don't think I've seen before. I'm not going to say it's because of the ministers who are there, but I can tell you that Suzette Morris and others have been working hard. When it comes down to the programs, the path transformation, the transformation of our work permit system, the new social protection project that's coming in, and on and on. You can see where the diligent efforts of the team at the Ministry of Parish Offices and our partners is truly already making significant strides. And now, when you think about what we're doing here and you look on the $1.1 million support that this program has provided, you can see the tangible outcomes across the key areas. And let me remind you, enhancing payment processes within Jamaica's social protection systems, making them more efficient, effective, safe, and accessible. And when you hear that, you may just hear it, but let me tell you how important that is. You may have somebody who lives out in Woy Woy, and for those of you who are not Jamaican, that means what? Far. Or as Jamaicans would say, fur. I'm not even saying it properly. Eh? I don't come from that country. There's a lot of different patois in Jamaica, you know. You recognize it. And by the way, my good friend, you say patois way too nice. Secondly, strengthening institutional capacity for fast identification of people facing acute socio-economic and environmental impacts. Thirdly, providing support for increased coverage and coordination by integrating the information systems used within social protection system. And fourthly, strengthening service delivery to both men and women through identification of existing gender gaps. Critical. So by prioritizing the enhancement of the payment processes within our social protection system, the SDG program facilitated the streamlining of operations to ensure, again, the efficiency and the effectiveness and accessibility for all beneficiaries, even those, as I said, in remote locations. By strengthening the institutional capacity and introducing tailored protocols to expand delivery of emergency social protection services, we have equipped our systems to respond swiftly to acute issues, socio-economic and environmental challenges especially. And I must tell you, we have also taken into account our capacity, our ability to deliver to our critical target groups along gender lines, something which is very important. A comprehensive gender gaps analysis has been conducted to identify and address existing disparities within policy and the legislative frameworks, which is going to help us. It's moving us more closely toward our goal of closing these gaps and enhancing responsiveness. And that must be ultimately what we want to do. None of us want to spend the time, the effort, the investment, and then simply end up ticking off the box. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing is having a massive and a sustainable positive impact. Correct? Yes. Under the diligent oversight of a 13-member technical oversight committee, co-chaired by the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, the joint program has achieved significant milestones over the past 27 months. Through capacity building initiatives and the digitalization of targeting mechanisms, we have empowered approximately 150 government offices and service providers to deliver more modern and to deliver more responsive services, thereby reducing the risk exposure for the most vulnerable members of our society. These outputs have been instrumental in advancing access to essential services and fostering speedy recovery from shocks for the 5 priority target groups identified as most vulnerable: women and female-headed households, families living at or below the poverty line, children, youth, and families that include persons with disabilities. In addition to delivering solidly on its planned objectives, the SDG joint program has served as a catalyst for securing additional financing and support for parallel initiatives. Notably, the Government of Canada has committed to providing technical and financial assistance over the next 12 months to enhance the management information system for the Jamaica Council for the Persons with Disabilities. And I know at least one person who is very happy. This critical support will enhance the ability of our systems and also accelerate the efforts to bridge the gap in access to social protection services for persons with disabilities. And I can tell you, I can speak on behalf of Dr. Dunn and myself, because he focuses on that area. serving as ministers in this ministry has enlightened us. It has opened our eyes to the understanding that it is we who have been creating the barriers for persons with disabilities. We often have been looking on the issue from the wrong perspective. We need to create a ramp. No, you need to take down the infrastructure that doesn't allow them access. It's a different thinking which we all need to adopt. Looking to the future, I want to state categorically that though the operational period of the joint program has formally come to an end, our commitment to continued collaboration and progress remains steadfast. We eagerly anticipate the establishment of a successor coordination mechanism to continue our work towards strengthening Jamaica's social protection system. This framework will strengthen the ongoing partnerships and coordination among key stakeholders, driving sustainable development and resilience for the benefit of all Jamaicans. So, as I close, as we reflect on the achievements and the impacts of the joint SDG fund program, let us reaffirm our collective commitment to building a better, a stronger Jamaica, a more inclusive Jamaica, where truly no one is left behind. Whenever I speak, I try to make sure persons know we can't just use these catchphrases. It must mean more than just a bunch of nice sounding words. If we leave persons behind, we will be the victims of their circumstances. If we do not create the equitable, inclusive society that we are speaking about, we will have to bound ourselves in high walls and bars, and we will not be able to enjoy the Jamaica that we have. There are some countries where the culture and the history has permitted for there to be a natural cohesion towards equitable society. For us, we have to work on it. We have to be purposeful, deliberate with our thoughts and with our actions. That's why I must tell you, we have called this ministry the People's Ministry. And it is truly a blessing for all of us as ministers, chief technical directors, to serve here. Every one of my team members believe in this, beyond just a paycheck. And this program, as it is conceived, Sir Miller, is truly a representation of the partnership that's going to help us to achieve these goals. So there's a clear purpose. We must work together to extend that helping hand to those who often go unnoticed, to those whose voices are often unheard, and to those people who, sometimes their cries for help go unanswered. That's what we are here to do. And your presence here today is certainly a testament to our shared dedication to rectifying this injustice. Dennis, you have a big task ahead of you. We all do. But I believe that together, we're not only going to seek to address the symptoms of poverty and vulnerability, but we are going to work towards tackling the systemic social issues that are at the root causes, striving for us to have lasting and sustainable change that will uplift the most marginalized members of our society. We can do it. Look around you. Just look around listen to all of the voices, think about what the intention was when the bodies that are represented here were started. We are getting it done, but we have to press gas and we have to remain focused. Thank you. One love.
Thank you so much, Minister. Friends, know that we have completed this leg of the journey. Where do we go from here? We're going to go next door to refresh ourselves. But as we close today's proceedings, we extend appreciation to all who participated, viewed online, helped in the background, and provided logistical support in registering this project in the annals of Jamaica's development path. I want to especially thank the social workers who are here with us today. Please just stand and be acknowledged. We have some social workers who are on the ground with us in the project. Please stand and be acknowledged. You are the legs of this project. And they're from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. So thank you. Thank you very much. We also want to thank our interpreters. The minister spoke about inclusion. And of course, we want to ensure that even as we're interpreting this ceremony today, that we had the caption on screen, we are showcasing to the country what inclusion means. And we want to thank our interpreters for their presence today. I also want to extend I think today's Administrative Professionals Day. I want to big up, and she don't like this, but I have to say it. Where's Wendy? Wendy is an excellent source of support. She's not even in here the way she's supporting us. But she has been tremendously supporting this project over the last 2 years, giving time, energy, and whatever else. I don't know how she finds it, but she finds the energy to do it. I want to also especially big up, Dana, that's the word I want you to, big up. The RC's office, Jermaine and Maxalia, for your support in this project. Thank you so much. Friends, we've come to the end, and here is my final comment. For the days of our years are 70, and by reason of strength, they be 80 years. Let us do all we can to give everyone a chance to live out their full lives. I'm Andre Miller, and it was my pleasure to take us through today's proceedings. Thank you. I know it's just about lunchtime. Might I invite you all